I was sitting at my kitchen table drinking my morning coffee when my phone rang. It was Aunt Ruth, someone I had not spoken to in years. Her voice was shaky, almost hesitant as she told me the news. Sophie, my older sister, was falling apart. Her marriage was over. She was broke. Everyone had turned their backs on her. I sat there in silence for a moment, then I smiled. And I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. You might think I am a terrible person for feeling this way about my own sister. But let me take you back to where it all began so you can understand why hearing about my sister's downfall felt like justice finally being served. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this all unfolded. My name is Marcus. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and family reputation means everything. Sophie was born 4 years before me, and from the moment I came into this world, I was living in her shadow. Sophie was everything my parents wanted in a child. She had golden blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and a smile that could light up any room. She was outgoing, charming, and she knew exactly how to make people love her. My parents adored her. To them, she could do no wrong. I was different. I was quiet, introverted, and I preferred reading books in my room over playing sports or going to parties. I was not ugly or untalented, but I was invisible next to Sophie. My parents never let me forget it. "Why cannot you be more like your sister?" my mother would say whenever I brought home a report card. It did not matter that I had straight A grades. Sophie had won a local beauty pageant that month, and that was all anyone cared about. "Sophie is going places," my father would tell his friends at barbecues. "That girl has got star quality." He never said anything like that about me. I learned early on that in my family there was Sophie, and then there was everyone else. But the favoritism was just the beginning. What really broke me was what Sophie did when no one else was watching. Sophie figured out very young that she could get away with anything as long as she blamed me. And she used that power relentlessly. When I was 7, I saved up my allowance for 3 months to buy a model airplane kit. It was a beautiful replica of a World War II fighter jet, and I spent an entire weekend putting it together. I was so proud of it. I placed it on my shelf like a trophy. 2 days later, I came home from school to find it smashed into pieces on my bedroom floor. Sophie was standing in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. "He threw it at me," she sobbed to my mother. "I just asked him to borrow a pencil and he got so angry." I tried to explain that I had not even been home. I had been at the library. But my mother did not want to hear it. "Stop lying and apologize to your sister right now," she demanded. I was grounded for 2 weeks. That was the first time, but it was far from the last. Over the years, Sophie took money from my piggy bank and said I must have spent it and forgotten. She broke my things and blamed me. She told our parents I said horrible things about them behind their backs, and every single time they believed her. By the time I was 12, I had stopped trying to defend myself. What was the point? No one was ever going to take my side. So I retreated into myself, buried my nose in books, and counted down the days until I could leave that house forever. The loneliness was suffocating. I had no allies in my own home. My parents saw me as the problem child, the difficult one, the one who was always causing trouble and making Sophie cry. I tried making friends at school, but Sophie found ways to ruin that too. She was 4 grades ahead of me, which meant she knew all the older kids. Whenever I started getting close to someone, Sophie would casually mention something embarrassing about me or spread a rumor or befriend them herself and slowly turn them against me. By high school, I had given up on friendships entirely. The one bright spot in my life was my grandmother. Grandma Ellen was my mother's mother, and she was nothing like the rest of my family. She saw through Sophie's act from the beginning. "That girl has a mean streak," she told me once when I was 14. "Do not let her break your spirit, Marcus. You are special. You just cannot see it yet." Grandma Ellen came to my science fair when I won first place at the state level. My parents could not make it because they were taking Sophie to some beauty pageant 3 hours away. But Grandma Ellen drove 200 miles to watch me accept my award. I stood on that stage looking out at the crowd, and I saw her sitting in the front row clapping harder than anyone. She was the only family member there. After the ceremony, she took me out for ice cream and told me she was proud of me. Those words meant more to me than anything my parents had ever said. One day, she promised me, everyone is going to see what I see. You just have to be patient. I held on to those words for years. They were the only thing that kept me going. When I turned 18, I could not wait to get out of Ohio. I got accepted to a college in Pennsylvania, not the most prestigious school, but it was far away from Sophie and my parents, and that was all that mattered. For the first time in my life, I felt free. I could be myself without Sophie's shadow looming over me. I made friends. I joined clubs. I started to believe that maybe I was not the broken, worthless person my family had made me feel like. And then I met Lauren. Lauren was in my economics class. She had dark curly hair, freckles across her nose, and a laugh that made my heart skip. We started studying together, then grabbing coffee after class, and before I knew it, I was falling in love for the first time. Lauren was everything I had ever wanted. She was kind, smart, and she actually listened when I talked. She made me feel seen in a way no one ever had before. We dated for 2 years. I thought she was the one. I was even starting to think about proposing after graduation. Then Sophie came to visit. She showed up unannounced one weekend claiming she wanted to check on her little brother. I should have known something was wrong. Sophie had never cared about my well-being before. She met Lauren at dinner that night. They seemed to hit it off, talking and laughing like old friends. I was actually happy, thinking maybe Sophie had changed. Maybe we could finally have a normal sibling relationship. I was such a fool. 3 days after Sophie left, Lauren broke up with me. I just cannot do this anymore, she said, her eyes red from crying. I thought I knew you, Marcus, but I guess I was wrong. I begged her to explain, but she would not give me a straight answer. She just kept saying she needed space, that she could not trust me anymore. I was devastated. I had no idea what had happened. It took me 6 months to find out the truth. A mutual friend finally told me what Sophie had done. Apparently, Sophie had pulled Lauren aside during her visit and shown her text messages. Messages that supposedly proved I was cheating on Lauren with multiple women. The messages were fake, of course. Sophie had created a fake phone number and manufactured an entire conversation. She even had photos probably pulled from random social media accounts. Lauren believed every word. Why would not she? Sophie was my sister. Family would not lie about something like that, right? When I confronted Sophie over the phone, she did not even try to deny it. You should be thanking me, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. That girl was not good enough for you anyway. I did you a favor. I hung up without another word. I was shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. That was the moment I realized Sophie was not just a spoiled brat or a bully. She was something darker. She enjoyed destroying things that made me happy. It was like a game to her. But the worst was yet to come. Grandma Ellen passed away during my senior year of college. It was sudden, a heart attack in her sleep. She was 72 years old. I drove back to Ohio for the funeral, dreading every mile. I had not seen my parents or Sophie in over a year, but I had to be there for Grandma Ellen. She was the only person in that family who had ever truly loved me. After the service, my father pulled me aside and told me about the will. Your grandmother left some money for you and Sophie, he said. $50,000 each. Sophie is going to handle the distribution since she is the oldest, and she is more responsible with these things. I should have objected. I should have demanded to see the will myself. But I was grieving, exhausted, and I just wanted to get back to school and away from that toxic house. A few weeks later, Sophie sent me a check for $10,000. The estate had more debts than we expected, she explained over email. This is what was left after everything was settled. Sorry, it is not more. I believed her. Why would I not? Grandma Ellen had lived modestly. It seemed plausible that there might be debts. 2 years later, I found out the truth. I was visiting my parents' house for the first and last time, trying to collect some old photos of Grandma Ellen. While going through boxes in the attic, I found a folder of documents, bank statements, legal papers, and a copy of Grandma Ellen's will. My hands trembled as I read it. Grandma Ellen had left $100,000 to be split equally between Sophie and me. $50,000 each, just like my father had said. There were no significant debts. The estate had been settled within weeks of her death. Sophie had stolen $40,000 from me. I confronted my parents that same day. I showed them the documents, the bank statements, everything. I laid it all out on the kitchen table and waited for them to finally see Sophie for who she really was. My mother's face went pale. My father's jaw tightened. And then Sophie walked in. "What is going on here?" she asked, her voice sweet and innocent. "Marcus is accusing you of stealing from Grandma Ellen's estate," my father said. Sophie's eyes went wide. Then her lips started trembling. "How could you say that?" she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "I would never. Marcus, why do you hate me so much? I have only ever tried to help you." And just like that, my parents turned on me. "You need to leave," my father said, his voice cold. "I do not know what kind of jealousy or mental issues you are dealing with, but I will not have you attacking your sister with these lies." "They are not lies," I shouted, pointing at the documents. "It is right here in black and white." "Get out," my mother said. "You are not welcome in this house anymore." Sophie stood behind them, and for just a second I saw it. A tiny smirk on her face. She had won again. I left that night with a single suitcase and $800 in my pocket. It was 3 days before Christmas. The temperature outside was 12 degrees. I slept in my car in a Walmart parking lot that night, shivering under every piece of clothing I owned. I was 26 years old, and I had just lost everything. My family, my inheritance, my sense of belonging, all because of Sophie. I drove west. I did not have a destination in mind. I just knew I needed to get as far away from Ohio as possible. I ended up in Denver, Colorado. I had never been there before, but something about the mountains felt right. They were solid, unchanging, indifferent to human drama. I needed that kind of stability. Those first few months were brutal. I had no job, no connections, and barely any money. I rented a tiny studio apartment that was more like a closet with a bathroom. I ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches because that was all I could afford. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. In the mornings, I waited tables at a diner. In the afternoons, I did deliveries. At night, I did data entry from my apartment. I slept maybe 4 hours a night. My body ached constantly, but I refused to give up. Every time I wanted to quit, I thought about Sophie. I thought about her smug face when my parents kicked me out. I thought about all the times she had knocked me down just to watch me fall. And I used that anger as fuel. After 2 years of grinding, I had saved enough to go back to school. I enrolled in night classes at a community college and got my accounting degree. It took 3 years of juggling work and school, but I did it. From there, I got an entry-level position at a financial consulting firm. I was the oldest person in my cohort, starting at the bottom, while kids 10 years younger than me climbed the ladder. But I did not care. I knew where I was going. I worked harder than anyone else. I stayed late, came in early, and never complained. I learned everything I could about the business. Within 2 years, I was promoted, then promoted again, then again. 7 years after my parents kicked me out, I was a senior manager earning a 6-figure salary. I had a beautiful house in a nice neighborhood. I had savings, investment, security, and I had Amanda. I met Amanda at a charity event 3 years ago. She was a pediatric nurse with a gentle soul and a wicked sense of humor. She laughed at my bad jokes. She held my hand when I told her about my past. She never once judged me for where I came from. We got engaged last spring. For the first time in my life, I was genuinely happy. Meanwhile, Sophie's life looked perfect from the outside. She had married Derek, a successful lawyer from a wealthy family. They lived in a massive house in an upscale suburb. Sophie drove a luxury car, wore designer clothes, and posted photos of her perfect life on social media every single day. She had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. She hired nannies to take care of them while she lunched with her wealthy friends and attended charity galas. My parents were so proud of her. Every time I checked Facebook, which was rarely, I saw them gushing about Sophie's accomplishments. Sophie's beautiful home. Sophie's wonderful husband. Sophie's perfect children. It made me sick to my stomach. But I had learned to let it go. Sophie had her life, and I had mine. Our paths had diverged, and that was probably for the best, or so I thought. Then came the phone call from Aunt Ruth. Aunt Ruth was my father's sister. She had always been a bit of an outsider in the family, living in Florida and rarely visiting. But she kept tabs on everyone, and she had always had a soft spot for me. "Marcus, honey," she said, her voice trembling with barely contained excitement, "you are not going to believe what is happening with your sister." And then she told me everything. It started with Derek. Apparently, he had been having an affair with his legal assistant for 3 years. 3 years of lies, secret hotel rooms, and late nights at the office. Sophie found out when the assistant's jealous ex-boyfriend sent her screenshots of their text messages, explicit messages, love declarations, plans for a future together. Derek did not even try to deny it. He filed for divorce the next day. But that was just the beginning. During the divorce proceedings, Derek's lawyers discovered something interesting. Sophie had been hiding a massive secret. Over the past decade, Sophie had racked up over $120,000 in credit card debt. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, luxury vacations. All charged to cards Derek knew nothing about. She had been juggling minimum payments for years, moving debt from one card to another, hiding statements and lying through her teeth. When Derek found out, he was furious. Since the debt had started before their marriage and Sophie had deliberately concealed it, he was not legally responsible for any of it. Sophie was on her own. The divorce settlement was brutal. Sophie had never worked a day during their marriage. She had no income, no skills, and no way to support herself. Derek got primary custody of the kids because Sophie could not prove financial stability. She got a small payout, nowhere near enough to cover her debts. Sophie filed for bankruptcy. But it got worse. Desperate Sophie went running to our parents. She showed up at their door crying and begging for help, and for the first time in her life they said no. Not because they did not want to help, but because they genuinely could not afford it. My parents were retired, living on a fixed income. They did not have $100,000 lying around. When Sophie realized they were not going to save her, she lost it. She screamed at them, called them horrible names, said things that could never be taken back. "You were never good parents anyway," she reportedly yelled. "Everything I ever accomplished was despite you, not because of you." My mother cried for days, and suddenly my parents started seeing what I had seen all along. They began digging into the past, asking questions, connecting dots. They finally looked at Grandma Ellen's estate documents. They talked to old family friends. They pieced together all the lies Sophie had told over the years. The truth came pouring out like a dam breaking. Sophie had stolen from me. Sophie had lied about me. Sophie had manipulated them for decades. My mother called me 2 weeks after Aunt Ruth's initial call. "Marcus," she said, her voice cracking, "I am so sorry. For everything. We were so blind." It was the first time she had apologized to me for anything in my entire life. I listened. I accepted her apology. But I told her I needed time. Decades of wounds do not heal with a single phone call. As for Sophie, word of her downfall spread through our small hometown like wildfire. All her wealthy friends disappeared overnight. The country club membership was revoked. The charity boards asked her to step down. Her own children, embarrassed by the scandal, asked to spend more time at their father's house. Sophie went from being the queen of her social circle to being completely alone. A week after Aunt Ruth's call, I received a text message from an unknown number. "Marcus, it is Sophie. I know we have not talked in years, and I know I have made mistakes. I am going through a really hard time right now, and I do not know who else to turn to. I need help. I am asking you as your sister, please help me. I can pay you back. I can make things right. I will return the inheritance money from Grandma. I promise. Please, Marcus. You are my only hope." I stared at that message for a long time. But another part of me felt something unexpected. Not sympathy exactly, but something like closure approaching. I showed the message to Amanda that night. "What do you want to do?" she asked gently. "I do not know," I admitted. I spent so many years dreaming about this moment, Sophie getting what she deserved. But now that it is here, I do not feel the way I thought I would. "How do you feel?" I thought about it for a long time. "Empty," I finally said. "Like I have been carrying this heavy weight for so long and now it is finally lifting. But underneath it, there is just nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, just relief." Amanda squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide, I support you." I spent 2 days thinking about my response. I thought about all the times Sophie had hurt me, the stolen inheritance, the destroyed relationships, the years of being blamed and belittled and made to feel worthless. I thought about the Christmas Eve I spent shivering in my car, the countless nights I worked myself to exhaustion just to survive, the therapy sessions where I had to unpack all the trauma she had caused. And I thought about who I had become despite all of it. I was successful. I was loved. I had built a life I was proud of completely on my own. Sophie had nothing to do with that, and giving her money now would not change anything that had happened between us. I finally wrote back. "Sophie, I received your message. I have thought about it carefully, and I have decided not to send you money. This is not about revenge or anger. I have moved past those feelings. I forgive you for what you did to me, not because you deserve it, but because carrying that resentment was only hurting me. But forgiveness does not mean I have to let you back into my life. You made choices. You hurt people. Now you are facing the consequences. That is not my responsibility to fix. I hope you find a way to stand on your own 2 feet, the way I had to when I had nothing and no one. It is possible. I am living proof, but you will have to do it yourself. I wish you well, but I cannot help you. Please do not contact me again." I blocked her number. It has been 3 months since then. My parents and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. It is awkward and painful, but we are trying. They have apologized multiple times, and they are in therapy now, working through their own guilt. Sophie moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of our hometown. She got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. From what I hear, she is struggling, but she is surviving. I do not celebrate her suffering. I do not wish more pain on her, but I also do not feel sorry for her. This is simply the natural consequence of a lifetime of choices. As for me, Amanda and I are planning our wedding for next fall. I got promoted again last month. Life is good. Better than good, actually. Life is everything I never dared to dream it could be when I was that lonely kid in Ohio wondering why his family did not love him. I used to think that success was the best revenge. That someday I would be so accomplished, so happy that Sophie would regret everything she did to me. But I have learned that success is not about revenge at all. It is about healing. It is about proving to yourself that you are worth more than the people who tried to break you. Sophie's downfall did not make me happy. It just made me realize how far I have come. I am not that scared little boy anymore. I am not the scapegoat, the outcast, the one who was never good enough. I am Marcus. I am a survivor. and I am finally truly free. Sometimes people ask me if karma is real. I used to wonder the same thing. Now I know. Karma is real. It just takes its time. And while you are waiting for it to arrive, the best thing you can do is build a life so good that when it finally comes, the news is just something you read over your morning coffee. Before you go, I have a question for you. Have you ever had to cut a toxic family member out of your life? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I would love to hear from you. If this story touched you in some way, please give it a like. It really helps the channel grow. And if you are not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss any future stories. If you know someone who is dealing with a difficult family situation, share this video with them. Sometimes knowing you are not alone is the first step toward healing. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. Remember, no matter what you have been through, you have the power to build a beautiful life. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.